Hare Krishna. We'll start with the invocation prayers. Nana Shastra Vicharanako Nipano Sattharma Samstapako Lokanamita Karano Tribhuvane Manyo Saranakarano Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Anandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalako He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Tena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming to hear and discuss Srila Prabhupada and Krishna's instructions, and thank you in advance for taking responsibility to apply these learnings in your everyday lives. Today we are going to revise Nectar of Devotion chapters 17, 18 and 19, and we will finish our Nectar of Devotion revision series. And from next week, we'll be revising Shishopanishad. So I will be speaking on chapters 17 and 18 on Bhava Bhakti. So let's start. Chapter 17 is titled Ecstatic Love. And chapter 18 is titled Character of One in Ecstatic Love. So chapters 17 and 18 is the third way, which is Bhava Bhakti. The key points covered in these chapters are the definition of Bhava, the primary and secondary characteristics of Bhava, and how Bhava is achieved, as well as it also describes the characteristics of one who is in ecstatic love, means one who is in Bhava. Another point described is that neophyte or non-devotee exhibiting signs of Bhava Bhakti. How do you understand this? And then how to convert this to genuine Bhava? And what happens with these unexpected symptoms? Those are actual genuine symptoms of Bhava. So these chapters 17, 18 on Bhava Bhakti as well as chapter 19 on Prema Bhakti are very elevated topics, very elevated levels. I will only briefly touch base few points that I have heard from previous acharyas. So the goal of our sadhana bhakti, meaning what is the goal of our devotional service endeavors such as reading scriptures, chanting japa, doing devotional services? The answer is that goal of our sadhana bhakti endeavors is to reach bhava bhakti. The goal and the purpose of sadhana bhakti is to awaken bhava, and prema bhakti will follow on itself. So bhava bhakti is the beginning of perfection, and prema bhakti is the perfected stage. Bhava is like a ray of sunlight coming through, say, an edge of a curtain or and a small hole, and prema is the whole sun itself. Even though Bhava Bhakti is such an elevated level, one can still fall down from Bhava Bhakti level only because of offenses. This is the only one reason that one can fall down from Bhava because of offenses. And when one reaches Prema Bhakti level, one does not fall down. The definition of Bhava Bhakti, I have it on the screen. I will recite from the screen that Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Shurya Amshu Samvik Bhava Ruchi Chitta Mashrinya Krite Asu Bhava Uchate. That when devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava or emotion. This definition is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 23, verse number 5. The primary characteristics of Bhava Bhakti is the first line, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. Pure goodness enters devotee's heart. So Shuddha Sattva is pure goodness. This is not material mode of goodness. Rather is pure goodness. It is Lord's internal potency. Function of this internal potency is to awaken the dormant love for Krishna. So just as a seed cannot grow without sunlight and heat of sun, similarly, the dormant seed of Krishna's love in everyone's heart, the prema, cannot grow without the touch of devotional energy, the Shuddha Sattva. The secondary characteristics of Bhava Bhakti are two. One is that Bhava Bhakti softens the heart of a devotee. Devotee is very easily moved by Krishna conscious emotions. And the secondary characteristics is that Bhava Bhakti gives rise to three kinds of taste. One is Prapti Abhilasha, means desire to achieve Krishna. Second is Anukulya Abhilasha, means desire to please Krishna with services. And third is Sahudrya Abhilasha, means desire to be close at heart with Krishna. Now, we have discussed in Nectar of Instruction as well as in Nectar of Devotion that Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, there are two paths. One is somebody doing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and the other path is somebody following Raga Anuga Sadhana Bhakti. Question is, can a devotee achieve Bhava Bhakti from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti alone without going to Raga Anuga Sadhana Bhakti? The answer is yes. The example is Srila Narad Muni. That it is possible to attain Bhava Bhakti from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti itself without switching over to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And of course, by Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti also, one can reach Bhava as well as a combination of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. One can also reach Bhava Bhakti. So how to achieve Bhava? There are two ways. One is by spiritual practice. And the spiritual practice has two paths. One is the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti path, that you very diligently serve and associate with advanced devotees. Narad Muni is the perfect example for this. And the second path is Raganuga sadhana bhakti. An example given is of Chandrakanti, that upon seeing the Gopinath's Archa Vigraha form, she just wanted to dance and dance and dance for the pleasure of Krishna, because Chandrakanti desired to develop sentiments of Ragatmika, like the gopis. Ragatmika are perfected. So we have discussed in our previous class that Raganuga follows Ragatmika. So Chandrakanti did not waste a single moment and just kept dancing and dancing all night. So this not wasting time is a characteristics of bhava. We'll soon discuss these characteristics of bhava bhakti. The second way to achieve bhava is by special mercy. And special mercy, also there are two ways. One is bhava attained through Krishna's special mercy. Krishna's special mercy can come in three ways. One is vachika, means speaking, by verbal blessing. An example is from Canto 1, chapters 5 and 6, especially chapter 6, that Krishna blessed Srila Narad Muni by speaking. Yes, he gave darshan one time and then Krishna spoke to Srila Narad Muni. The second way of Krishna's special mercy is darshan, by glance. That Krishna blessing by appearing in person. Example is Dhruv Maharaj. That Dhruv Maharaj was meditating and Krishna appeared in front of him. The third way of Krishna's special mercy is Harda, that by good wishes, the blessings of the Lord. Example, Sukadeva Goswami achieved bhava within the womb. The second way of special mercy is mercy from a devotee. There are many examples. Some are example of Srila Narad Muni blessed Prahlad Maharaj, Mrigari. So Srila Prabhupada says, achieving bhava solely by mercy is not common. We should not wait for mercy. No, we should endeavor. And Prabhupada says that one who expects to achieve bhava by mercy alone is like one who expects to complete a college degree, university degree, not by studying hard, but by wanting to get an honorary degree. No, we have to endeavor. We cannot just sit idle and expect to get results. Now I will describe the characteristics of one who is at bhava bhakti level. So Srila Rupa Goswami gives these 9 characteristics possessed by one who has genuine bhava. A person, a devotee in bhava, can neither imitate nor conceal these 9 symptoms. Therefore, these are excellent standards for determining who is at bhava stage. So first of these 9 characteristics is utilization of time. He is in constant engagement in devotional service 24 hours a day. Second is perseverance, to remain tolerant and patient even amid great disturbance. Third is detachment, complete indifference to objects of sense gratification. Fourth is pridelessness. One feels humble even though he is extremely elevated. Fifth is hope against hope, meaning he has firm faith that Krishna will deliver one to the highest perfection, even though one feels low and utterly unqualified to achieve it on its own. Sixth is intense eagerness for achieving pure loving service. Seventh, constant attraction to chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Eighth, addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. 9. Love for living in Lord's Dham. Now, if a sincere devotee cannot attain bhava easily, so how can a neophyte exhibit signs of bhava? We just discussed that a person cannot imitate nor conceal these bhava symptoms. The answer is that neophyte showing signs of bhava are reflection of bhava of a pure devotee. When the neophyte is in close proximity with a pure devotee, and this is known as rati abhas. There are few devotees across our batches who have actually experienced this rati abhas, or the reflection of bhava. There are 2 types of rati abhas. One is pratibimba, or reflective, that performing devotional service with ulterior motives for fruitive gain or liberation. Now, although motive is corrupt, practice is still intense. While performing devotional service in association of devotees, the neophyte experiences bhava symptoms because the genuine bhava, or the ecstasy of pure devotee, is reflecting upon the mirror of neophyte's heart. Therefore, the neophyte is showing the symptoms of bhava, which are actually a reflection of the symptoms of pure devotee being reflected on the heart of neophyte's heart. The second type of rati abhas is chaya, or shadow. That a person executes devotional service out of social convention. So execution of devotional service under Pratibimba Ratiyabhas is intense, while execution of devotional service under Chaya Ratiyabhas is less intense. The motive under Pratibimba is corrupt, while the motive under Chaya is less corrupt. So such neophytes may exhibit bhava symptoms, the symptoms of ecstasy, especially during, say, kirtan time or big festivals, say when we have 12-hour kirtan just before Rath Yatra or the Rath Yatra festival or Janmashtami festival, or when somebody visits Holy Dham, or when somebody has occasional association of a pure devotee or spiritual masters. These are the times when neophytes may exhibit these ecstasy symptoms, the bhava symptoms. So both these ratiyabhas of pratibimba and chaya are caused by the power of pure devotee. In simple terms, even though bhava is just a tiny ray of sunlight, still bhava is very intense. Bhava is very difficult to handle unless the devotee is very advanced. Therefore, this experience of ratiyabhas is a precursor to the tiny ray of sunlight, so that you can handle the tiny ray of sunlight, or you will be able to handle the tiny ray of sunlight, the bhava bhakti. So how to convert ratiyabhas to genuine bhava bhakti? So both these pratibimba and chaya ratiyabhas are caused by the power of pure devotee. By serving pure devotees, the neophyte's imitative attachment can transform into genuine attachment. We have discussed so many times, bhakti is the cause of bhakti. Attachment towards Krishna cannot be invoked in a neophyte without being blessed by association of pure devotee. Now, let's also look at the other way around. So first way we looked at neophyte showing signs of bhava bhakti, which are ratiyabhas. The other way around is that what if advanced devotee who is at genuine bhava stage has some faults? And Srila Rupa Goswami explains that although bhava has arisen, there may be some leftover sinful reactions which are not completely destroyed. So we all should disregard such tiny faults being shown by a devotee having genuine bhava, understanding that the devotee will soon become completely perfect. An example to explain this is when you look at a moon, you will notice some dark spots. But the illumination of the moon cannot be checked by those little dark spots. This is how we should ignore those tiny faults and just focus on their ecstatic level. So on the overview chart for Nectar of Devotion, which I have on the screen, so you can see right in the lower middle, you have the third wave, which is chapter 17 and 18, Bhava Bhakti, which we just discussed. And then the fourth wave is chapter 19 on Prema Bhakti, which we'll soon discuss after reading chapter 17 and 18. So I have done a lot of talking. I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations before we start reading chapters 17 and 18. Nitya.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much. It was a difficult topic. I could really understand and remember most of the things we'd gone through earlier. So this excusing the faults applies only at the level of a pure devotee at the highest level, correct? It doesn't excuse when a neophyte or someone who's like a Madhyam Adhikari has faults. It only applies to the most advanced level, excusing the faults.
Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is one of the important teachings is aversion to fault finding. So I have on the screen Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's very famous instruction. Nitya, you want to read from the screen?
Yes, Prabhu, sorry. Don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. First, look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Is there any lust in you? Is there any kutinati or deceit in you or not? Be worried about that. Don't worry about others. Sri Guru and Lord Sri Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them, therefore you have no right to criticize. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah, and read his next instruction, Nitya.
Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. My advice is do not criticize others, try to rectify them.
Right, so it's applicable to devotees or non-devotees. So even in the material world, do not criticize anyone. And Bhagavatam later on goes on to describe this, that why you should not criticize people in the material world is because you end up developing this wrong characteristics of criticizing others, and you end up criticizing devotees, you end up criticizing spiritual master. Therefore, stay very, very far away from criticizing, no matter who it is. Now, if you want a detailed discussion on this, about not criticizing, just last week, I think last week or a week before at batch 5, there was this inquiry on this point, and there's a detailed discussion on this. All of you should try to listen to that. It's a very heavy discussion, a very long discussion on one inquiry, that we should feel disgusted if we have to talk negative points about others. So all of you should try to get that recording from me. I mean, it's also available on YouTube, but on YouTube, it's not listed that this point is discussed on YouTube, it just says inquiry. So it's buried in a lot of inquiries. So I can give it. I think it's in the last 2 weeks. All of you should listen to this very important inquiry that we should feel disgusted if we have to talk about negative points about others. Nitya, everybody, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you, and please kindly send me the recording of the class. Thank you.
Yeah, send me a message so I don't forget. Right now, I'm not taking notes. All of you, whosoever wants to listen to the recording, you can send me a message offline. But
Hare Krishna, I have a question. So Narada Muni achieved bhakti, prema bhakti, bhava bhakti while hearing Hare Krishna Mahamantra, singing Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I thought this mantra is only for Kali Yuga. So is it also was there?
so Hare Krishna Mahamantra is always there. So Narad Muni is famous for initially reciting the glories of Krishna. And later on, Narad Muni brought Hare Krishna Mahamantra from spiritual world to material world uh, just before Kali Yuga. And if you read Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam has the Satyug time frames, say when Narad Muni met Dhruv Maharaj. Narad Muni asked Dhruv Maharaj to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So earlier Yuga, the mantra to chant was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I mean, nothing wrong to chant with Hare Krishna Mahamantra that time also. But that time it was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you read Bhagavatam, Canto 4, should be around chapter 8 or 9, or verse 53, 54, that Narad Muni gave this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya verse to Dhruv Maharaj to chant. Not Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In Satyug, it was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Matan?
Okay.
Rest of you, so I have the verse. I will bring up on screen. So it's 4853. You can read later by yourself. I will just highlight key points that that Narad Muni is giving this mantra. So it's a confidential mantra, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And why is Narad Muni giving that? So this all is longer discussion. And then in the same 4853, Prabhupada explains that in Kali Yuga, it's Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? And if you go to the next verse, it says Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So in Satyug, Narad Muni gave Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya verse to Dhruv Maharaj to chant. So both points are explained, what we just discussed. You can read 48, 53, 54 later by yourself. Matan, does that further help?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Let's read from chapter 17 onwards. Archana will start reading the chapter. So Archana will read from the start of chapter and read 4 paragraphs. So my book is page 131, chapter 17, Ecstatic Love, and read 4 paragraphs till the top of page 133.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Chapter 17, Ecstatic Love. By the process of executing regulated devotional service, one is actually elevated to the transcendental stage, beyond the material mode of a nature. At that time, one's heart became illuminated like the sun. The sun is far above the planetary system, and there is no possibility of its being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like a sun, from his pure heart there is diffusion of ecstasy, love, which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only at that time is the attachment to Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee became eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttama Adhikari, perfect devotion. Such a devotee has no agitation from material affection, and it is interested only in the service of Radha Krishna. To clarify, in the previous chapter, the symptoms of devotional service were explained, along with instruction as to how we may execute devotional service with our present senses and gradually rise to the platform of ecstasy in a spontaneous love. And the two kinds of devotional service, namely devotional service through regulative principle and through spontaneous love, were discussed. With, within the stage Within the stage of the regulative principle of devotional service, there are two divisions, namely executive and effective. The effective portion of devotional service is called bhava or ecstasy. In this connection, there is a statement in the tantras that ecstasy is the first symptoms of a pure love for a personality of a Godhead, and is that the stage one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. Not always are these symptoms manifest, but occasionally. When King Amarish was put into difficulty by Durvasa, he began to think of the lotus feet of a Lord, and thus there were some changes in his body, and tears were falling from his eyes. These symptoms are activity of ecstasy. They are visible in the shivering of a body and the shedding of a tears. After the outward appearance of these ecstatic symptoms, they stay within the mind and continuation of the ecstasy is called samadhi. This stage is appreciation becomes the cause of future exchange of loving affair with Krishna. The elevation to this stage of ecstatic can be possible in a two way. One way is by constant association with the pure devotee. The other way is by special mercy of Krishna or by the mercy of pure devotee of Krishna. Elevation to ecstatic stage of life is generally attained through association with the pure devotee, while elevation to that stage by the special mercy of Krishna or his devotee is very rare. The pur- the purport is that one should execute devotional service rigidly in the association of devotees, so that there will be certainly in raising oneself to that ecstatic position. In a special cases, in the special cases, of course, there is a special favor from Krishna, and although we should always expect that, we should not sit idly and simply wait for Krishna's special mercy. The regular duties must be performed. It is just as when sometime it is found that a person who never attained a school or a college may be recognized as a great scholar, or honorary degree from the great university may be offered to him but this does not mean that one should avoid school and expect to automatically receive an honorable degree from some university. Similarly, one should devotedly execute the regulatory principle of devotional service, at the same time hope for Krishna favor or for his devotees' favor. An example of rising to the stage of ecstatic love by executing the regulatory principle of devotional service is given in the life story of Narada, which described to Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada tells there of his previous life, how he developed to the stage of ecstatic love. He was engaged in the service of a great devotee and used to hear their talk and song. Because he had the opportunity to hear this pastime and song of Krishna from the mouth of a pure devotee, he became very attracted within his heart. Because he had became so eager to hear this topic, he gradually developed within himself as ecstatic love for Krishna. This ecstatic love is prior to the pure love of Krishna, because in the next verse, Narad confirmed that by the gradual process of hearing from the great sage, he developed love of Godhead. In that connection, Narad continued to say in the first canto, 55th chapter, verse 28 of the Bhagavatam. First, I pass my days in the association of great sages during the rainy autumn season. Every morning and evening I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus my heart gradually became purified. As soon as I heard them with a great attention, the influence of the mode of the material ignorance and passing disappearance, and I became firmly fixed in a devotional service to the Lord.
All right. Chandan Prabhu, from paragraph number 5 on top of page 133, paragraph 5 starts. These are practical examples, and finish reading to end of chapter 17.
Hare Krishna. These are practical examples of how one can develop to the stage of ecstatic love simply by the association of pure devotees. It is essential, therefore, that one constantly associate with pure devotees who are engaged morning and evening in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one will get the chance to purify his heart and develop this ecstatic pure love for Krishna. This statement is also confirmed in the third canto, 25th chapter, verse 25 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Kapila says, "My dear mother, when a person is actually in association with pure devotees, the sublime potency of my devotional service can be experienced. In other words, when a pure devotee speaks in his words, act upon the hearts of the audience. What is the secret of hearing and chanting? A professional speaker cannot impress transcendental ecstasy within the hearts of the listeners. However, when a realized soul who is engaged in the service of the Lord is speaking, he has the potency to inject spiritual life within the audience. One should therefore seek the association of such pure, unalloyed devotees, and by such association and service, a neophyte devotee will certainly develop attachment, love, and devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Padma Purana, there is the story of a neophyte devotee who, in order to raise herself to the ecstatic platform, danced all night to invoke the Lord's grace upon her. Sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of the devotional attitude in a person must be understood as a special mercy of Krishna or of his devotee. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna can be divided into three groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes. In the Naradiya Purana, there is statement about development of ecstatic love simply by speaking. Lord Krishna said to Narada, "O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement about developing ecstatic love toward Krishna simply by glancing. It is stated there, when the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead, Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. As far as heartfelt wishes are concerned, there is a statement in the Sukha Samhita where Narada tells Srila Vyasudeva, you have a son who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of the regulatory principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births. As for ecstatic love of Krishna, there is a statement in the 7th canto, 4th chapter, verse 36 of Srimad Bhagavatam, in which Narada addressed King Yudhishthira. My dear king, it is very difficult to describe the character of Prahalada. He developed a natural attraction for Krishna, and whatever I can explain about his character will simply be an arrangement of words. His actual character is impossible to describe. This means that Narada himself admitted that the natural development of Prahalada's ecstatic love was by the grace of Lord Krishna. This natural attraction for Krishna on the part of Prahalada was developed simply by the mercy of Narada. When Prahalada Maharaja was within the womb of his mother, she was being sympathetically instructed by Narada about the science of devotional service, and at the same time Narada was wishing that the child within the womb could also take advantage of the instructions. Because Narada, an authorized devotee and great associate of the personality of Godhead, was desiring auspiciousness of Prahalada Maharaja. He developed all the characteristics of a high-grade devotee. This is called natural attraction. It is caused by the special grace of the personality of Godhead or by the special grace of a great devotee like Narada. There is a statement in the Skanda Purana wherein Pravada Muni tells Narada, my dear Narada, of all saintly persons, you are so great and glorious that simply by your good wishes, a low-born hunter also has become a great elevated devotee of Lord Krishna. The ecstatic love for Krishna can be divided into 5 divisions, which will be described by Sri Rupa Goswami later on. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay, let's also read chapter 18. Shivangi, if you can start from the start of chapter 18, the first paragraph and the topic utilization of time. Shivangi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Rupa Goswami next describes the characteristics of a person who has actually developed his ecstatic love for Krishna. The characteristics are as follows. 1. He is always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always 24 hours a day without deviation. He is always reserved and perseverant. He is always detached from all material attraction. He does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. He is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. He is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. He is very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. He is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He is very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. Example, Mathura, Vrindavana, or Dwaraka. Utilization of time. An unalloyed devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna is always engaging his words in reciting prayers to the Lord. Within the mind, he is always thinking of Krishna, and with his body, he either offers obeisances by bowing down before the deity or engages in some other service. During these ecstatic activities, he sometimes sheds tears. In this way, his whole life is engaged in the service of the Lord, with not a moment wasted on any other engagement.
Very good. Devya will read the next three topics: perseverance, detachment, and pridelessness.
Hare Krishna. Perseverance. When a person is undisturbed, even in the presence of various causes of disturbance, he is called reserved and perseverant. An example of this perseverance and reservation is found in the behavior of King Parikshit, as described in the first canto, 19th chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam. The king says there to all the sages present before him at the time of his death, "My dear Brahmanas, you should always accept me as your surrendered servant. I have come to the bank of the Ganges just to devote my heart and soul unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So please bless me that Mother Ganges may also be pleased with me. Let the curse of the Brahmana's son fall upon me. I do not mind. I only request that at the last moment of my life, all of you will kindly chant the holy name of Vishnu so that I may realize his transcendental qualities." This example of Maharaja Parikshit's behavior, his remaining patient even at the last point of his life, his undisturbed condition of mind, is an example of reservation. This is one of the characteristics of a devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna. Detachment. The senses are always desiring sense enjoyment, but when a devotee develops transcendental love for Krishna, his senses are no longer attracted by material desires. This state of mind is called detachment. There is a nice example of this detachment in connection with the character of King Bharata. In the fifth canto, 14th chapter, verse 43 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Emperor Bharata was so attracted by the beauty of the lotus feet of Krishna that even in his youthful life he gave up all kinds of attachments to family, children, friends, kingdom, etc., as though they were untouchable stools. Emperor Bharata provides a typical example of detachment. He had everything enjoyable in the material world, but he left it. This means that detachment does not mean artificially keeping oneself aloof and apart from the allurements of attachment. Even in the presence of such allurements, if one can remain unattracted by material attachments, he is called detached. In the beginning, of course, a neophyte devotee must try to keep himself apart from all kinds of alluring attachments. But the real position of a mature devotee is that even in the presence of all allurements, he is not at all attracted. This is the actual criterion of detachment. Pridelessness. When a devotee, in spite of possessing all the qualities of pure realization, is not proud of his position, he is called prideless. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that King Bhagiratha was the emperor above all other kings. Yet he developed such ecstatic love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. There are many similar instances in the history of India. Even very recently, about 200 years ago or less, one big landlord known as Lal Babu, a Calcutta landholder, became a Vaishnava and lived in Vrindavana. He was also begging from door to door, even at the homes of his political enemies. Begging involves being ready to be insulted by persons to whose home one has come. That is natural, but one has to tolerate such insults for the sake of Krishna. The devotee of Krishna can accept any position in the service of Krishna.
Good. Nitya will read 4 topics, starting with great hope, eagerness for achieving desired results, attachment to chanting holy name of the Lord, and eagerness to describe Lord's transcendental qualities.
Great hope. The strong conviction that one will certainly receive the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called in Sanskrit Asa Bandha. Asa Bandha means to continue to think. Because I'm trying my best to follow the routine principles of devotional service, I am sure that I will go back to Godhead, back to home. In this connection, one prayer by Rupa Goswami is sufficient to exemplify this hopefulness. He says, I have no love for Krishna, nor for the causes of developing love of Krishna, namely hearing and chanting. And the process of Bhakti Yoga, by which one is always thinking of Lord Krishna and fixing his lotus feet in the heart, is also lacking in me. As far as philosophical knowledge of pious works are concerned, I don't see any opportunity for me to execute such activities. But above all, I am not even born of a nice family. Therefore, I must simply pray to you, Gopijana Vallabha, Krishna, maintainer and beloved of the gopis. I simply wish and hope that some way or other I may be able to approach your lotus feet, and this hope is giving me pain because I think myself quite incompetent to approach the transcendental code of life. The purport is that under this heading of Asabandha, one should continue to hope against hope that someday or other he will be able to approach the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Eagerness for achieving the desired success. When one is sufficiently eager to achieve success in devotional service, that eagerness is called samut kanta. This means complete eagerness. Actually, this eagerness is the price for achieving success in Krishna consciousness. Everything has some value, and one has to pay the value before obtaining or possessing it. It is stated in the Vedic literature that to purchase the most valuable thing, Krishna consciousness, one has to develop intense eagerness for achieving success. This intense eagerness is very nicely expressed by Bilavanga, Bilva Mangala Thakura in his book Krishna Karnamitra. He says, I'm eagerly waiting to see that boy of Vrindavana, whose bodily beauty is captivating the whole universe, whose eyes are always bounded by black eyebrows and expanded like lotus petals, and who is always eagerly glancing over his devotees and therefore moving slightly here and there. His eyes are always moist, his lips are colored like copper, and through those lips there comes a sound vibration which drives one madder than a mad elephant. I want so much to see him as Vrindavana. Attachment to chanting the holy names of the Lord. In the same Krishna Karnamrita, there is another statement about the chanting of Radharani. It is said by one of the associates of Radharani, O Lord Govinda, the girl who is the daughter of King Vrishabhanu is now shedding tears, and she is anxiously chanting your holy name, Krishna Krishna. Eagerness to describe the Lord's transcendental qualities. Attachment for chanting the glories of the Lord is also expressed in the Krishna Karnamrita as follows. What shall I do for Lord Krishna, who is pleasing beyond all pleasurable conceptions, and who is naughtier than all restless thoughts? The idea of Lord Krishna's beautiful activities is attracting my heart, and I do not know what I can do.
Very good. Matan will read the topic attraction for living in place where Krishna has his pastimes to end of chapter 18.
Hare Krishna. Attraction for living in a place where Krishna has his pastimes. In the book Patiyavali by Rupa Goswami, there is the following statement about Vrindavana. In the place, the son of Maharaja Nanda used to live with his father, who was king of all cowherd men. In this place, Lord Krishna broke the cart in which the Sakadasura demon was concealed. At this place, Damodara, who can cut the knot of our material existence, was tied up by his mother Yasoda. A poor devotee of Lord Krishna resides in the district of Madura or Vrindavana and visits all the places where Krishna's pastimes were performed. At these sacred places, Krishna displayed his childhood activities with the Howard boys and Mother Yasoda. The system of circumambulating all these places is still current among devotees of Lord Krishna, and those coming to Madura and Vrindavan always feel transcendental pleasure. Actually, if someone goes to Vrindavana, he will immediately feel separation from Krishna, who performed such nice activity when he was present there. Such attraction for remembering Krishna's activities is known as the attachment for Krishna. There are impersonalists, philosophers, and mystics, however, who, by a show of devotional service, want ultimately to merge into the existence of Supreme Lord. They sometimes try to imitate a poor devotee's sentiment for visiting the holy places where Krishna had his pastimes, but they simply have a view for salvation, and so their activities cannot be considered attachment. It is said by Rupa Goswami, that the attachment exhibited by pure devotees for Krishna cannot possibly be perfected in the heart of fruity worker, Hermes, or mental speculator, because such attachment in pure Krishna consciousness is very rare and not possible to achieve even for many liberated persons. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, liberation from material contamination is the stage at which devotional service can be achieved. For a person who simply wants to have liberation and to merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti, attachment to Krishna is not possible to acquire. This attachment is very confidentially kept by Krishna and is bestowed only upon the pure devotee. Even ordinary devotees cannot have such pure attachment for Krishna. Therefore, how is it possible for success to be achieved by persons whose hearts are contaminated by the actions and reactions of fruitive activities and who are entangled by various types of mental speculation? There are many so called devotees who artificially think of Krishna's pastimes known as Astahalya Leela. Sometimes one may artificially imitate this, pretending that Krishna is talking with him in the form of a boy, or else one may pretend that Radharani and Krishna both have come to him and are talking with him. Such characteristics are sometimes exhibited by the impersonalist class of men, and they may captivate some innocent person who have no knowledge in the science of devotional service. However, as soon as an experienced devotee sees all of this caricature, he can immediately evaluate such rascaldom. If such a pretender is sometimes seen possessing imitative attachment to Krishna that will not be accepted as real attachment, it may be said, however, that such attachment gives the pretender hope that he may eventually rise onto the actual platform of pure devotional service. This imitative attachment can be divided into two headings, namely shadow attachment and para transcendental attachment. If someone, without understanding the regulative principle of devotional service or without being guided by a bona fide spiritual master, shows such imitative attachment, that is called shadow attachment. Sometimes it is found that a person actually attached to material enjoyment or salvation has the good fortune to associate with pure devotee while they are engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. By the good grace of the Lord, one may also cooperate and join in the chanting. At that time, simply by the association of such a pure devotee, the moonlight rays from their hearts reflect on him, and by the influence of pure devotee, he may show some likeness of attachment caused by inquisitiveness, but this is very flickering. And if by the manifestation of such shadow attachment one feels the disappearance of all material pangs, then it is called para attachment. Such a shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a poor devotee or visit the holy places like Vrindavan or Madhura. And if an ordinary man develops such attachment for Krishna and fortunately perform devotional activity in the association of pure devotee, he can also rise to the platform of pure devotional service. The conclusion is that transcendental attachment is so powerful that if such a attachment is seen manifested even in some common man by the association of pure devotee, it can bring one to the perfectional stage. But such attachment for Krishna cannot be invoked in a person without his being sufficiently blessed by the association of pure devotees. As attachment can be invoked by the association of pure devotee, so attachment can also be extinguished by offenses committed at the lotus feet of pure devotees. To be more clear, by the association of pure devotees, attachment for Krishna can be aroused, but if one commits offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee, one's shadow attachment or para attachment can be extinguished. This extinguishing is like the warning of the full moon, which gradually decreases and at last becomes dark. One should therefore be very careful while associating with pure devotees to guard against committing an offense at their lotus feet. Transcendental attachment, either shadow or para, can be nullified by different degrees of offenses at the lotus feet of pure devotee. If the offense is very serious, then one's attachment becomes almost nil. And if the offense is not very serious, one's attachment can become second class or third class. If someone becomes attached to the principle of salvation or to merging into the existence of the Brahma Jyoti, his ecstatics gradually diminishes into shadow and para attachment, or else transform into the principle of San Ahangraha Kopasana. The Ahangraha Kopasana describes a living entity when he begins spiritual realization by identifying himself with the Supreme Lord. This state of self realization is technically known as monism. The monist thinks himself one with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, because he does not differentiate between himself and the Supreme Lord, it is his view that by worshipping himself, he is worshipping the Supreme Whole. Sometimes it is found that a neophyte is taking part in chanting and dancing very enthusiastically, but within himself he is under the impression that he has become one with the Supreme Whole. This conception of monism is completely different from pure transcendental devotional service. If, however, it is seen that a person has developed a high standard of devotion without having undergone even the regulative principles, it is to be understood that his status of devotional service was achieved in a former life. For some reason or another, it has been temporarily stopped, most probably by an offense committed at the lotus feet of a devotee. Now, with a good second chance, it has again begun to develop. The conclusion is that steady progress in devotional service can be attained only in the association of pure devotee. If one can gradually advance his status in devotional service, this is understood to be due to the causeless mercy of Krishna himself. If a person is completely detached from material enjoyment and has developed pure ecstatic devotion, even if he is sometimes accidentally found not living up to the standard of devotional service, one should not be envious of him. It is confirmed also in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who has unflinching faith in and devotion to the Lord, even if sometimes found to be accidentally deviated from pure devotional characteristics, should still be counted among the pure. Unflinching faith in devotional service in Lord Krishna and in the spiritual master makes one highly elevated in the activities of devotional service. In the Narasimha Prana, it is stated if a person has completely engaged his mind, body, and activity in the service of the Supreme Godhead, but externally he is found to be engaged in some abominable activity, these abominable activities will surely be very quickly vanquished by the influence of his staunch devotional force. The example is given that on the full moon there are some spots that may appear to be uh, pockmarks. Still, the illumination spread by the full moon cannot be checked. Similarly, a little fault in the midst of volumes of devotional service is not at all to be counted as a fault. Attachment for Krishna is transcendental bliss. Amid unlimited volumes of transcendental bliss, a spot of some material defect cannot act in any way. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, let's discuss chapter 19 on Prema Bhakti. Shivangi.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to offer the summary of chapter 19 of the Nectar of Devotion titled Devotional Services in Pure Love of God. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. Many themes are discussed in this chapter, such as material world lust versus real world spiritual love, ecstasy, the Lord's extraordinary mercy, as well as association with pure devotees. When the soul's desire to love Krishna in a particular relationship becomes intensified, this is known as pure love of Godhead. In the beginning, a devotee is engaged in the regulative principles of devotional service by the order of his guru. Then, when he becomes completely purified of all material contamination, an attachment and taste develops for devotional service. This taste and attachment, when gradually intensified in due course of time, becomes love. The word love can actually only be applied in relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, love is not applicable at all because what goes on under the name of love in the material world is nothing but lust. There is a huge gulf of difference between love and lust, like the difference between gold and iron. When lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Godhead and the concept of kinship is completely reposed in Him, such is accepted as pure love of God by great authorities. This pure love can be transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead under two conditions: out of ecstasy and out of the causeless mercy of the Lord Himself. Ecstatic love of Godhead can be invoked simply by following the rules and regulations of devotional service as they are prescribed in the scriptures under the direction of a spiritual master. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.40, it is described as thus: a devotee, in the course of executing the regulated principles of devotional service, being softened in heart chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy names of the Lord, he sometimes cries, talks wildly, sings, and without caring for any outsider, dances like a madman. When a devotee is found to be always associated with the Lord in ecstatic love, it is to be understood that such a position has been awarded by the Lord Himself out of His extraordinary causeless mercy. The example of the gopis of Vrindavana is quoted in this regard, who simply by the Lord's association attain the highest perfection of devotional service. From these examples, it is evident that the devotee always thinks of the Lord and chants His glories in ecstatic love, regardless of his condition, will attain the highest perfection in unalloyed devotional love due to the Lord's mercy. In the Narada Panchatra, pure unalloyed devotional service is explained as being without any motive for personal benefit. If a devotee is continuously in love with Lord Sri Krishna and his mind is always fixed upon him, that devotional attitude will become the only means of attracting the Lord's attention. Generally, a devotee who has achieved the causeless mercy of the Lord, on account of following the rules and regulations of devotional service, becomes attracted by the Lord's greatness, by His transcendental beauty, and by the spontaneous execution of devotional service. By executing the regulated principles of devotional service, one can properly and fully appreciate the Lord's transcendental beauty. Although different processes for developing love of Godhead have been explained, Srila Rupa Goswami provides a general description of how one can go about this process. The beginning of ecstatic love of Godhead is essentially faith. There are many societies and associations of pure devotees, and if someone with faith, little faith, begins to associate in such organizations, his advancement to pure devotional service is very likely. The influence of a pure devotee is such that if someone comes to associate with him with just a little bit of faith, one hears about the Lord from authoritative scriptures and sources. And thus, by the Lord's mercy, this faith gradually becomes to increase more and more. In the second stage, one becomes more advanced and mature and automatically follows the principles of devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee and accepts him as his guru. Subsequently, under the guidance of this guru, the devotee executes regulative devotional service, and because of being engaged in such activities, he becomes freed from all anarthas and unwanted occupations. His faith becomes strongly fixed, and he develops a transcendental taste for devotional service, attachment, ecstasies, and in the last stage, there is pure love of God. Only the most fortunate persons can achieve such a success in life. Those who are simply academic students of Vedic scriptures cannot appreciate how such development and processes take place. Sanatana Goswami goes on to describe in his Bhagavatamrita confidential and detailed dealings of affection of love, and in this chapter, Srila Rupa Goswami concludes the first division of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, offering this treatise for the transcendental pleasure of Sanatana Goswami. Thank you all for listening and for the opportunity to conclude Nectar Devotion study. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations for Shivangi? All right. I will also quickly summarize chapter 19. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 19, is titled Devotional Service in Pure Love of God. The key points covered in this chapter are the definition, the primary characteristics, secondary characteristics, the types of prema and achieving prema. So chapter 19, I'll describe in brief because both Prema Bhakti and Bhava Bhakti chapters are similar and these are advanced topics. Prema Bhakti is fully developed stage of Bhava Bhakti. When one's desire to love Krishna, when one's relationship intensifies, is called pure love of God. It's called Prema Bhakti. We have the definition of Prema Bhakti on the screen, which is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 23.7. When that bhava softens the heart completely, becomes endowed with great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified, it is called prema, love of Godhead, by learned scholars. So primary characteristics of prema bhakti is the third line in the Sanskrit. Bhava sa eva sandra atma. That prema is intensified. Sandra is intensified state of bhava. And the secondary characteristics of prema are the first two lines of the verse. First line says, Samyak mashrinta swa anta. That prema completely softens the heart. And the second line says, Mamatva atishya ankita, means prema is marked by highly possessiveness of Sri Krishna. So regular devotional service has the mood that I am Krishna's. But Prema Bhakti has the mood that Krishna is mine. There are two ways to achieve Prema Bhakti. One is Sadhana Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti has two ways. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava Bhakti level. So Prema arising from Bhava, awakened through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So devotees executing regulative principles of devotional service develops Krishna consciousness and his heart is softened. And the second way in Sadhana Bhakti is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava Bhakti. That prema arising from Bhava awakened through Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. We discussed the example of Chandrakanti. The second way to achieve Prema Bhakti is Prema achieved through extraordinary mercy of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.12.7, Krishna says to Uddhava that gopis did not study Vedas or any scriptures to achieve me. Gopis did not go to holy places. Gopis did not execute regulative principles nor any austerities. simply by my association that they have attained the highest perfection of devotional service. There are two types of prema. Mahatma Gyan prema is one. That prema mixed with knowledge of Lord's majesty. So devotee achieving bhava from Vaidhi sadhana bhakti level or the path will generally attain Mahatma Gyan prema. They will generally be in the mood of awe and reverence because they know the Lord's majesty. The second type of prema is Kevala prema, unmixed, pure prema, pure and one-pointed prema, not even slightly mixed with any other aspirations or interest. No aspiration for Vaikuntha, no aspiration for liberation, no interest in Lord's power and opulence. Devotee with one-pointed love, the Kevala prema, always lovingly fixes his mind upon Shri Krishna without the slightest deviation to any other topic. Devotees achieving bhava from Raganuga sadhana bhakti path will generally attain Kevala prema. Krishna says in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, text 16 and 17, that Vaidhi Bhakti does not attract Krishna. By Vaidhi Bhakti, one may attain Vaikuntha planets. Therefore, Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach Prema Bhakti. So earlier, we had populated a chart for the various points to distinguish Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. We had 10 points under each of these categories to distinguish them or to identify the prime characteristics of each one of them side by side. The key differences between Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti are the impetus to perform devotional services, anartha nivritti, and the degree of attachment to Krishna. It is not that the 64 items of devotional services are split between Vaidhi, Raganuga, Bhava or Prema. No. All devotees follow the same 64 items. Just the degrees are different in terms of impetus to perform devotional service, anartha nivritti, and the degree of attachment to Krishna. That's a quick summary of Nectar of Devotion, chapter 19. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, let's read chapter 19. Archana, would Devraj like to read paragraph number 1 or you can read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Devraj. No. Come. Just one paragraph, small. Come. No. Okay, Prabhu, I'll read. Chapter 19, Devotional Service in a Pure Love of God. When one is desired to love Krishna, in a one particular relationship became intensified. This is known as pure love of Godhead. In the beginning, a devotee is engaged in the regulative principle of devotional service by the order of his spiritual master. When one thereby became completely purified of all material contamination, there develop an attachment and a taste for a devotional service. This taste and attachment, when gradually intensified in the course of a time, became love. The word love can actually be applied only in a relationship with the personality of a Godhead. In a material world, love is not applicable at all. What goes on under the name of a love in the material world is nothing but lust. There is a gulf of difference between love and a lust, like the difference between a gold and iron. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is clearly stated that when lust is completely transferred to the Supreme Godhead and the concept of the kinship is completely reposed in him, such is accepted as a pure love of a god by great authorities like Bhishma, Prahlad, Uddhava, and Narad Muni. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Chandran Prabhu will read the topic ecstasy. Chandran?
Hare Krishna. Sorry for this thing. Ecstasy, ecstatic love of Godhead can be potentially invoked simply by following the rules and regulations of devotional service as they are prescribed in scriptures under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 40, Srimad Bhagavatam, this ecstatic love, born of the execution of regulative devotional service, is explained. A devotee, in the course of executing the regulative principles of devotional service, develops his natural Krishna consciousness, and being thus softened at heart, he chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he sometimes cries, sometimes talks wildly, sometimes sings, and sometimes, without caring for any outsider, dances like a madman. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement about ecstatic love born of spontaneous affection. Chandrakanti, a celebrated fair-faced girl, rigidly observed a celibacy in order to obtain Krishna as her husband. She always engaged herself in meditating on the transcendental form of the Lord and always chanted the glories of the Lord. She did not desire to accept anyone else as her husband. She had firmly decided that only Lord Krishna would be her husband. The Lord's extraordinary mercy. When a devotee is found to be always associated with the Lord in ecstatic love, it is understood that such person position has been awarded by the Lord himself out of his costless extraordinary mercy. An example of such extraordinary mercy is given in the 11th canto, 12th chapter, verse 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, the gopis in Vrindavana did not study the Vedas to achieve me, nor had they ever been in holy places of pilgrimage, nor did they devotedly execute any regulative principle, nor did they undergo any kind of austerity. It is simply by association that they have attained the highest perfection of devotional service. From the example of Chandrakanti as found in the Padma Purana and from the example of gopis as found in Srimad Bhagavatam, it appears that a devotee who always thinks of Krishna and who always chants his glories in ecstatic love, regardless of his condition, will attain the highest perfection of unalloyed devotional love due to Lord Krishna's extraordinary mercy. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. If a person worships, adores, and loves Hari, the Supreme Lord, he should be understood to have finished all kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for self-realization. On the other hand, If after undergoing all types of austerities, penances, and mystic yoga practices, one does not develop such love for Hari, then all his performances are to be considered a useless waste of time. If someone always sees Krishna inside and out, then it is to be understood that he has surpassed all austerities and penances for self-realization. And if after executing all kinds of penances and austerities, one cannot always see Krishna inside and out, then he has executed his performance uselessly.
All right.
Spontaneous. Hare Krishna.
Divya, you want to continue from the paragraph spontaneous attraction and finish this topic of Lord's extraordinary mercy? Divya.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I'm just looking. There, I found it. Spontaneous attraction to Krishna, which is said to be due to the extraordinary mercy of the Lord, can be placed under two headings. One is profound veneration for the greatness of the Lord. The other is one's being automatically attracted to Krishna without any extraneous consideration. In the Narada Pancharitra, it is said that if on the account of profound veneration for the greatness of the Supreme Lord, one attains a great affection and steady love for him, one is certainly assured of attaining the four kinds of Vaishnava liberation, namely achieving the same bodily features as the Lord, achieving the same opulence as the Lord, dwelling on the planet where the Lord is residing, and attaining eternal association with the Lord. The Vaishnava liberation is completely different from the Mayavad liberation, which is simply a matter of being merged into the effulgence of the Lord. In the Narada Pancharatra, pure unalloyed devotional service is explained as being without any motive for personal benefit. If a devotee is continuously in love with Lord Krishna and his mind is always fixed upon him, that devotional attitude will prove to be the only means of attracting the attention of the Lord. In other words, a Vaishnava who is incessantly thinking of the form of Lord Krishna is to be known as a pure Vaishnava. Generally, a devotee who has achieved the causeless mercy of the Lord on account of following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service becomes attracted by the supreme greatness of the Lord, by the transcendental beauty of the Lord, and by the spontaneous execution of devotional service. To be more clear, by executing the regulative principles of devotional service, one can fully appreciate the transcendental beauty of the Lord. In any case, such exalted positions are possible only by the extraordinary mercy of the Lord upon the devotee.
Very good. Nitya, you want to read the topic association with pure devotees to end of chapter 19?
Yes, Prabhu. Association with pure devotees. Although many different processes for developing love of Godhead have been explained so far, Srila Rupa Goswami now gives us a general description of how one can best achieve such a high position. The beginning of ecstatic love of Godhead is basically faith. There are many societies and associations of pure devotees, and if someone with just a little faith begins to associate with such societies, his advancement to pure devotional service is rapid. The influence of a pure devotee is such that if someone comes to associate with him with a little faith, one gets the chance of hearing about the Lord from authoritative scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by the mercy of the Lord who is situated in everyone's heart, one gradually develops a faith in the descriptions of such authoritative scriptures. That is the first stage of association with pure devotees. In the second stage, after one becomes a little advanced mature, he automatically offers to follow the principles of devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee and accept them as the spiritual master. In the next stage, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the devotee executes regulated devotional service, and as a result of such activities, he becomes free from all unwanted occupations. When he is freed from unwanted occupations, his faith becomes steadily fixed, and he develops the transcendental state for devotional service. Then attachment, then ecstasy, and in the last stage, there is pure love of Godhead. These are the different stages of development of pure love. Only the most fortunate persons can achieve such success in life. Those who are simply academic students of Vedic scriptures cannot appreciate how such a development takes place. In the Narada Pancharatra, Lord Shiva therefore tells Parvati, my dear Supreme Goddess, you may know from me that any person who has developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love cannot even perceive the material distress of happiness coming from the body or mind. The affection and dealings of love that are different branches of the original tree of love receive many varieties of affectionate manifestations that will not be discussed here. These different manifestations have been described by Sanatana Goswami in the Bhagavatamrita. Although the subject of such affections and dealings of love is very confidential, Sanatana Goswami has described them very explicitly. Sri Rupa Goswami thus concludes the first division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, offering up Ch18 for the transcendental pleasure of Sanatana Goswami, was established the transcendental beauty, and of Gopala Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunatha Dasa Goswami. It appears from the statement that the great Srila Jiva Goswami was not yet active when Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was written. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta summary study of the first edition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu up to the descriptions of ecstatic love of Godhead, which are to follow next.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations? We have thus completed a revision study of Nectar of Devotion. I thank you all for your participation in the revision presentations. From next week, as you can see on the screen, we'll be revising Sri Upanishad in next 3 weeks. There is one spot available if anybody is still interested to do the presentations. And then from 24th May onwards, you all will be doing your bigger presentations. So Pragya, Chandran and Abhishek Prabhus need to provide me and connect with me on your final draft of the presentation. Nitya has already done that. Mathan and Archana Prabhus, you need to connect with me and provide me your draft presentations very, very soon. Realize from the experience of others, Pragya and Nitya, that this will take a very, very long time for you. You may still not realize. Therefore, I need you to start providing me your draft and you will realize you will have to edit a lot. So you will also have to listen to a lot of lectures from Prabhupada if they are available. So start connecting with me again. I have already mentioned this earlier also. Any questions, comments, realizations before we stop for the day? All right, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone.